Okay. Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Bante Sirinanda. Um, I warmly welcome all of you, and it's my pleasure being here and being able to share some Dhamma with all of you. As Bante Sirinanda said, my name is Bante Vijita. I live in Ottawa, and I'm also from Sri Lanka. Actually, Bante Sirinanda and myself received high ordination together back in Sri Lanka. So I consider him as one of my brother monks. So I've been living in Ottawa about 10 years, and uh, and I have been, sharing Dhamma with people in Ottawa. So it's a great pleasure being able to be here this evening and share some Dhamma. I think that's enough about myself. Um, I'm going to start today's session by paying my respect to the Buddha, chanting the Namo Tassa once. If you would like, so you can also join with palmed hands, keeping your palms together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I'm going to share my screen with you. I prepared a short presentation as well. Okay. So today is, as Bante Sirinanda said, today is the last day of this Introduction to Buddhism course. The topic given to me is Buddhist lay life, generosity, morality, and mental cultivation. Importance of care for the dying and the dead. It's a big topic. Um, we have very limited time as well, so I would like to guide you through and as- uh, explaining the meaning of Buddhist lay life, and what is the meaning of generosity, morality, mental cultivation, and importance of uh, care for the dying and the dead. From the teaching of the Buddha, I will refer some of the suttas at the end of my presentation as well. Before moving to the presentation, I would like to invite all of you, take a look at uh, uh, this, video of the very place we all are living, which is Earth. Uh, Whatever we talk about in terms of Buddhism or any other religions, we are talking all of those things in this very place. But when we think about Earth, it's a very small piece of the whole universe. So universe is unthinkable. So whatever you practices we do in terms of religion, spiritualities, we all uh, while living here, we try to increase our life to a higher spiritual state. What I wanted to point out is the earth, it says, scientists says, it rotates, uh, approximately 1,000 miles for an hour. Even though we feel like we are stilled and we are not changing, we are changing. The speed of that change is even unthinkable. And the very place we are living also constantly change. So when it comes to bigger picture, we uh, we should be able to go beyond, our religious lenses and see life, in a bigger picture. So as I come to the conclusion of this explanation of Buddhist lay life, I will guide you through, seeing life in a bigger picture, not restricted to, one particular place we live, but seeing life in a bigger picture. So first, I'm going to explain three meritorious deeds. Three meritorious deeds in Buddhism mentioned as generosity. The Pali word for that is dana. Morality, sila. Mental culture or meditation is bhavana. I'm going to repeat those Pali words again: dana, sila, and bhavana. So these three trainings become a significant part of uh, not only actually lay life, but also ordained life as well. So today, since we are talking mostly related to lay life, um, these three practices is very important in terms of uplifting our uh, ordinary life to a state of more extraordinary, and uplifting it spiritually and bringing more meaning and purpose to our life. So in order to uplift our life, uh, in order to spiritually develop our life, so Buddha encourages us to practice this generosity, morality, and meditation. When we look at these things, sometimes it can feel like, lots of practices in Buddhism. Even though there are, different categories, different practices, I want you to think them as a part of life, you know. So in all of these practices are part of our life, very simple part of our life. Let's look at the first one, generosity. One thing that we should understand, why Buddha encourages to practice generosity, why we should be generous. When we practice, giving, it helps us to let go of excessive attachment. This is a this is something that I want to stress here excessive attachment. It is, very natural to our life that we attach to things in life. But uh, in ordinary life, uh, when we excessively attach to things, our mind become overwhelmed. You know, we uh, we feel that when those things we may not be able to maintain and have, there is sort of imbalance that take place in our life. So practice of generosity help us to let go of that excessive attachment, and slowly, little by little, it help us to train our mind to let go of things, even when things departing from our life. Since we have this training, it helps us to accept those losses in our life. So that is a part of the practice of dana, generosity. The other one is it helps to collect merits, punya. uh, so we believe there is a circle of life. uh, the life take place uh, in this samsara over and over again. Like, uh, you know, let's say a mango, just the seed of the mango give rise to a mango tree, and then the mango tree bear fruits, and again those fruits give rise to mango trees, and it goes and on and on. So similarly, uh, our life, Buddha says, go on and on, as humans, as deities, as Brahmas, or as animals. So in this circle of existence, Buddha says, those who practice generosity keep a positive state of mind, they maintain a positive energy level in their mind. So that helped them to reborn in good places, and those things help them to experience positive things in life, comfort in life. So that is another benefit of dana, or generosity. And the other thing is life becomes simple, when we collect all the time, when we feel like we can let go of anything. Sometimes there are people, uh, you know they don't want to let go of even simple things. They like to keep in storage, they even don't want to let things go. So sometimes when we unwantedly get attached to things, our life become heavy. It loses that simplicity. But practice of dana, generosity, help us to become more simple, and it brings happiness to life. uh, how it brings happiness, when you give something to someone, and you give it with kindness and compassion, and when you see the other person enjoying that, it brings happiness to our life. Also, uh, uh, when we train our mind to let go of things, there's some sort of happiness that all the time we maintain in our life as well. Build compassion among each other, and let go of expectations. And that is also one of the significant practice of in Buddhism, in terms of practicing dana. So Buddha advises, when we practice giving, uh, giver should not hold on to things or expect anything. For example, let's say we help a friend, and then we expect the friend should in return help me. And that expectation is something, you know, unsure. The friend might help or might not help. So when we don't meet those expectations, there is anger arise. How could that person, do that to me? Or how could that person, neglect me? So like that, you know, in other, that creates some sort of anger, resentment in our mind. So therefore, Buddha invites us, when you practice dana, practice it without expectations. Uh, just simply practice giving. As I go through the slides and then go through explaining these Dhamma points, if you have any questions, so you can ask questions as well. Uh, so there are three ways of giving. Uh, this explained in some of the suttas. Uh, the first one is giving of material things. So it can be food, money, uh, clothing, maybe helping to build a temple or a house. So like that, giving material things, even a simple thing like, giving a chocolate to somebody, even very simple things. So there is no, uh, a, a gift is not small, So whatever we can give, we should give it with kindness and compassion. So the first one is material giving. That is called amisa dana. And then the second one is giving of fearlessness. Fearlessness means uh, the Pali term for this one is abhaya dana. That means uh, the way we do things in our life sometimes create fear in others. Sometimes our, arrogance, our anger, our rigid way of thinking and rigid way of looking at things and self-centered ideas and all these things create discomfort in maybe between wife and husbands, among friends, and some it brings lots of discomfort to others. Sometimes because of those behaviors, sometimes children, sometimes wife, and sometimes husbands, sometimes friends, they live in fear. So to give fearlessness, what we have to do is we have to cultivate kindness, compassion in our life. So the more we become friendly, kind, compassionate person, everybody feels very safe to live around us. And everybody feel that, the power of the vibration of kindness. So that is giving fearlessness. Sometimes in Buddhist cultures, in order to practice abhayadana, sometimes people, buy animals, those who are about, kill, and they release like birds, cows, and like that. So they, release them from those unfortunate situation. That is also a practice of abhayadana. And the last one is the giving of the dhamma, dhamma dana. So what is giving of dhamma? As you uh, already know, dhamma means uh, we refer the word dhamma to the teaching of the Buddha. Also, dhamma means uh, anything that helps somebody to uplift their spirits, anything that helps someone to find meaning and purpose in life, anything that helps someone to find, a righteous comfort in life. So, dharma dana means when it comes to Buddhism, the Buddha says, if you can share this message, how to overcome suffering and how to find peace in life, how to be free from anger. And if you can show someone this path of peace, it is called giving of Dhamma. That is one of the most significant practice of generosity, which is the Buddha admire this uh, more than giving of material things or giving of fearlessness. So Buddha appreciate more the practice of dhammadana. So these practices, it has lots of benefits for oneself and others, and they can, we can practice them in many different ways. For example, the third one, giving of dhammadana. So today, as I do this presentation, I'm sharing the teaching of the Buddha. So that is a giving of Dhamma. So that is a Dhammadana. And Atlantic Buddhist Vihara is organizing this Dhamma, classes, teaching Buddhism. That is a practice of Dhammadana, giving of the Dhamma. So it is also a practice of generosity. Even if you have, let's say, you buy a book, and that book helped you to understand the Dhamma, and you pass it to somebody else, and that is, that person read that book and find Dhamma that helped to find meaning and purpose in life, or overcome suffering, find more peace. Or that is when you give the book to someone, and that is a practice of Dhammadana as well. So that, like that, there are very simple ways of practicing uh, the generosity in terms of giving Dhamma. There are lots of things, in terms of dana that I can, go on and on explaining. Since this is, we have a limited time frame, so I'm kind of going through addressing some of the very significant teaching associated to these themes. I don't think anybody is sharing any question at this moment, so I'm gonna go to the second one, which is sila. Sila means discipline or restraint. What is sila? What does this mean? So sila mean, sometimes there are translation as precepts or rules, but sila simply means protecting our, being mindful of our words and being mindful of our physical actions. That is simply sila. So when we become mindful of our verbal actions and the physical actions, uh, it helps us to limit, you know, regrets in life. Sometimes we have lots of regrets by, saying things that we don't, when we are not mindful sometimes, and we say things, and those things hurts the other person. Sometimes because of our verbal actions, we carry that heaviness, burdens in life for years and years. So therefore, uh, restraining or being mindful of the words we use, being mindful of the physical action, help us to regret less in life, or sometimes no regrets at all. And that also helps to reduce the restlessness in the mind. Uh, when we have uncontrolled words and uncontrolled actions, unmindful words, um, when we have, therefore we may have lots of regrets, sometimes, uh, negative thoughts, and those create restlessness in the mind. The more we become aware of our physical and verbal action, that help us to limit harm to oneself and others, and then develop respect and harmony, and life becomes smooth. I'm displaying here a picture, a crack in the foundation. Bhante Gunaratana explains sila as sealant. I found that is a very interesting explanation. So when there's a crack in the foundation, what we do is, we use a sealant to, or something similar to that, to, uh, uh, patch it, or to, uh, cover it, so that when we seal it, it helps the foundation to be stronger, and there's no water leaking through the foundation. So Sila, Bhante Gunaratana explains as a foundation. When the foundation, our verbal and physical actions are cracked, that means no mindfulness there, and we are not guarded our words and physical actions. So that can, shake the foundation of our life. So the sila, the practice of sila, is just like a foundation in life. Helps to, cultivate other things in life with a, a good foundation, a solid foundation. Another way to look at sila is, as you see, there's a picture of a fence. So when we have a fence around our properties, house, uh, the meaning of having a fence is to protect whatever inside. So sila is like that. So when we have sila in life, we protect our mind, protect the goodness of our life. For example, when we, the basic precepts or discipline, a Buddhist practice in life, they call 5 precepts. The first one is abstain from taking life. The second one is abstain from taking what is not given. Third one is sensual misconduct. Sometimes some people translate as sexual misconduct, but the Pali word used here is kamesu. That means sensual misconduct, which include sexual misconduct as well. False speech, the fourth one. And the fifth one is abstain from intoxicants that clouds our mind, that create unmindfulness. So think for a moment nature of these trainings. So sila is training principles. uh, if you don't, if you break one of these, you are not a Buddhist. No, it's not like that. uh, they are called training principles. uh, we may unmindfully break them. you know we are ultimately humans, and we can make mistakes. uh, but the person, Buddha asked to come back to uh, you know uh, by being mindful of one's own action and start practicing again. And you might break it again, that's okay. So then you come back to practice it again, and you might break it for 100,000 times, but that's okay. That's why it's called training principles. So on the other side of these practices is practicing loving kindness and compassion. When we don't uh, harm anybody, uh, that means we are respecting other lives. We love our life. We like it. We don't like anything happens to it. Similarly, we look at others as well. They don't like harm in their lives as well. So that I cultivate kindness and compassion. The way I love myself, in same terms I love others. So when we refrain from taking what is not given, we again practice kindness, create security, you know, respect others. So like that, sila, uh, let's come back to ourselves. Sila simply means being mindful of our verbal actions and being mindful of our physical actions. Is there any question? Anybody has any questions before I move to the third one? Okay, so we talked about the first one, which is dana, and the second one, sila. And the third one is bhavana, or mental cultivation. So this is one of the main practices in Buddhist teachings as well. Uh, even though these things explained one by one, they are interconnected. So there's a deeper connection in the practice of dana, sila, and bhavana. One helps to the other, so that uh, we shouldn't think like, I practice dana first and then sila next and the bhavana next. There's no something like that in when it comes to training. So they are inherently connected to each other, and I will show that connection as I go through this presentation. So Pali word for meditation is bhavana. It comes from the word bhaveti, that is the Pali word. Bhaveti means cultivate. So what we cultivate is our mind. So the cultivation of mind is called bhavana. So then the question comes, how we cultivate it, right? And And that is what explained under meditation in the teaching of the Buddha. So there are many discourses that particularly explains bhavana, like Satipatthana Sutta, Indriya Bhavana Sutta, Anapanasati Sutta. There are, lengthy discourses of the Buddha that explain in detail the nature of mental cultivation. So today, let's look at uh, what does this really mean and how we can practice this training in our life. So I have a picture here. I invite you to take a look at this picture. And this picture explains it has a deeper meaning. When there's wind, the water start, making ripples. And then what happens when the water is disturbed, even though we go to a beautiful lake, we may not be able to see the bottom of the water. In this picture, you see the water is sort of stilled, and we can see what is underneath, pieces of rocks, pieces of woods. So we can see what is underneath. I don't see any fish there. So we start seeing what is underneath. So calming the mind is part of meditation, like calming the water, when the nature becomes, settled, the wind become calm, the water becomes silent and stilled. So similarly, that practice of calming the mind is a part of the meditation training. The other part is, once it is calm, using that calmness, the tranquility of the mind, to see what is underneath, is another part of meditation. Again, these two is inherently connected to each other. So these two practice in Buddhism named as, one is samatha, which is concentration or tranquility. The other one is vipassana. Uh, the the translation that I found quite close to vipassana. So there are two words. One is passana. It comes from the word passati, passana, and the other one is vi. So passati means see. So vipassana means seeing clearly or clear seeing. Sometimes it has translated as insight, and that is not a bad translation as well. But if we go to the word by word meaning, vipassana means clear seeing. So let's take a look at concentration or the tranquility of the mind. Uh, concentration means we always receive information from our eyes, our through our sense doors. Uh, Through our tongue we taste things, through our ears we hear sounds, and we receive information, and our mind, based on what we receive, sometimes it creates peace within, sometimes it creates lots of disturbances. So when there are lots of disturbances in the mind, our life feels very heavy, and we name, sometimes, oh, I'm going through lots of stress these days, and the work is so hard, my family life is a mess, uh, and through our experiences, our mind shake. And as I mentioned, we use, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, sometimes feeling, stressed. um, that is, that is the nature of our mind. There is nothing wrong in that, because that is, how we feel sometimes in life, based on our experiences. We cannot shut down these sense doors, right? And sometimes we cannot shut down our mind as well. So therefore, we have to find an alternative way to calm it down. So to calm it down, we have to find ways to, you know subjects of meditation that helps to calm it down. So there are different subjects of meditation when it comes to samatha. For example, loving kindness, which is a very common practice. uh, when we take the theme loving kindness or kindness, metta, we keep priority to that theme in our mind, and we cultivate that kindness to ourselves, we cultivate kindness to others, and we develop that, thought in our mind. So we slowly, little by little, we become one with kindness, and that help us to, limit the disturbed mind, slowly and slowly, little by little, to concentrate, bring some peace to our mind. And let's take another example, breathing meditation. So at the beginning of breathing meditation, it helps to create the tranquility of the mind, and as it goes on in the practice, it end up practicing vipassana. But the initial level, as we focus on our breathing, breath is a natural event in our body, uh, or natural process, and that natural process has no good or bad. It's just breath. But there are sometimes we call bad breath. But when it comes to uh, uh, focusing on the process of breathing, it's just a very calming process. So when we keep looking at that process, the body through nose, breathe in, breathe out, and we start seeing long breaths, short breaths, and we go, become more awakened to that, and we start noticing even, subtle sensation of breathing in, breathing out. So then the mind keep associating a neutral subject. There's no anger, there's no resentment, there's no restlessness, there's no attachment, so that it helps the mind to calm down, and that build up tranquility. So this is the practice of samatha, calming the mind, uh, making it peaceful. The other one is uh, I see the chat box. Let me see whether there's any uh, questions. Maybe since I'm sharing the screen, I may not see the uh, chat box. So, but I will, at the end of the presentation, I will check that. The second one is in meditation training or bhavana is vipassana or clear seeing. This is a very profound practice in the teaching of the Buddha. Vipassana means clear seeing. Seeing take place through our eyes, right? So we see the world through our eyes. So that is physical seeing. So vipassana is not physical seeing, it's beyond physical seeing. It is, in other words, reflective seeing, or seeing the nature of what we see, seeing the nature of what we experience through our senses, seeing the nature of our life. And that is called vipassana. For example, let's say, uh, uh, as we calm down our mind, let's say anger is a problem in my life. But when I meditate, I feel peaceful. But as I wake up from meditation, as I go through in my life, when there is a situation that anger to arise, and then I get angry, and it keep happening and keep happening. So as we develop concentration in the mind, we can use that tranquility of the mind to kind of see the nature of anger. Let's say anger is, even though there are other causes for our anger to arise, simply anger arises in our mind as any other thoughts, like happiness, like tranquility, like any other thoughts. Anger also a thought that arises in our mind and that create feelings and emotions as well. So no matter what causes anger to arise, simply the anger arises in me, in my mind. So the meditator starts seeing anger as a thought. So when we come to that understanding, we are not giving, we are limiting giving power to anger. And anger does not, control us anymore. We see it as a thought that arises in our mind. And we go deeper understanding it, what feeling, sensation it creates, and what situations, in which situation that anger arises in my life. And we go deeper understanding and seeing mostly anger arises when something that happens I don't like, the way I expect, when things does not take place the way I expect, annoyance, anger arises in mind. So therefore we see the causes behind the anger. And we come to see, by changing the way I see things, the changing the way I look at things can, reduce anger. Uh, you know, one thing that, as we understand from experience, uh, we cannot change the world. That is one of the core teaching of the Buddha. We cannot change the world, but by changing us, we can change the world. If we go changing the world, it will become a never-ending struggle. But if we focus on changing ourselves, and that helps to experience happiness within, and that impact, we create that a positive impact in the world. So therefore, vipassana training invites us see clearly our experiences. As we see clearly, we start seeing, uh, let's say, negative thoughts, negative experiences, positive experiences, negative feelings, positive feelings, and all these feelings, sensations, thoughts, emotions, they are in a process of changing from moment to moment. From moment to moment, they all change in a very subtle, deeper level. They all change. So, as we see the nature of those things as changing things, as impermanent, it helps us to, detach ourselves for those. So we start seeing ourselves separate from those. We are not going to identify ourselves, as I, myself, mine. That egocentric mindset start collapsing. So that is the practice of vipassana, or seeing clearly. So this explain some part of vipassana training. The Buddha says, when we analyze our life, we find only it can be categorized into 5 groups. They are in Buddhism called skandhas. So ultimately we find these 5 categories. What? One category is feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. The other one, perceptions, our memories. The other one is consciousness. And the other one is mental formations, our good and bad, thoughts. And then our physical body, which has 6 senses. So this is another very interesting part of this training, to understand life as nothing but an existence of these 5 experiences, 5 categories. So it has, uh, 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 it takes more time to explain this. So I just, invite you to leave it with you. And there are lots of online resources that you can refer. And if you are interested in learning these more, simply if you, search 5 aggregates, skandhas in Buddhism, so you will be able to kind of read more about these 5 aggregates. Okay, so I have been so far explaining the three trainings. The first one is dana, which is the practice of generosity. And the second one is the practice of sila, morality or discipline. And the third one is bhavana, mental cultivation. Uh, the basic quality that underline all these training is kindness and compassion. You know, through dana, through sila, or through bhavana, all these three practices, there's, the underlying, the foundation for all these practices is compassion, love, kindness. So now we are moving to the next part of our discussion.
Bante, before you are moving to the next part, there is a question. Bante, can I ask it? It's because it's related to the talk that you already given, so maybe it's
Okay.
easy for you to do the question. Yeah, I can say the question. So it is in the chat box, since you said that you don't have access to the chat box now. So the question is, my question is, can Vipassana meditation and Samatha meditation both lead to Nibbana? That's the question. Yeah.
Okay.
You
That's
want
a
me to repeat it?
no, Bandit. Thank you for reading the question. Um, both actually part of uh, our, the daily practices or our training, and both practices lead to nirvana. So, as I have been explaining, nirvana uh, uh, is the, ultimate kind of goal in our Buddhist practices. So nirvana means uh, coming into terms, or coming to, understand or awaken to the reality of life. So in order to come to that, we have to calm the mind, create tranquility in the mind, bring peace to our life, and then we start seeing clearly our experiences in life. The material, immaterial part of our life, we start seeing clearly. By both these practices, it helps us to, slowly and little by little come out of ego, uh, come out of, thinking uh, mine and myself only. uh, it helps us to kind of let go of excessive attachment to things, and it helps us to understand uh, the world and the existence of oneself as well. So therefore, both these practices, samatha and vipassana, um, help us to, experience that inner freedom, which is nirvana. Bante, is there any other questions?
There is another one, Bante. Yes. Uh, the question is, when I meditate and a thought of anger arises, I just take note of it, but I don't dwell on the anger. Which type of meditation is this?
Yeah. Bante, can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah, when I meditate and a thought of anger arises, I just take a note of it, but I don't dwell on the anger. He's asking which type of meditation is this?
Hmm.
Is a meditation?
Yeah, that's a very good awareness. This uh, I see it as you know uh, as a part of samatha and vipassana as well. So as your mind calm down, you start seeing your anger. So you start seeing anger as a thought, and you notice it, and you don't react to it. And therefore, that calmness of the mind helps you to see it, and your clear seeing or your insightful seeing or your wise reflection help you to not to react to that thought and see it as a thought. So therefore, this is the combination of, as I see, samatha and vipassana. So that is why I think I mentioned that um, samatha and vipassana, both one helps to the other. It's not like you only practice vipassana and you don't practice samatha. uh, as I see through the teaching of the Buddha, one helps to the other. uh, there is a deeper connection between those two practices.
Thank you, Bante. And I ask you to, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask it directly, or you can type in the chat box. And Bante, if you don't mind, you can go to the next section.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhante Siddhananda. Yes, you don't have to hesitate. If you have any question, you can ask, or you can interrupt me as well. And today is the last session. So uh, the next part of today's topic is death, dying, and death. Reflection on death has been appreciated a lot in the teaching of the Buddha. So Buddha admired a lot uh, the death reflection. Uh, there are lots of recent research done on death reflection. I found those research are very interesting. Uh, they have found that people who reflect on death or one's own mortality that helps to improve physical health. Sometimes you might be wondering how it improve physical health. So we will take a look how it improve physical health. Reprioritize goals and values. There's another benefit of a death reflection they found. As we see, our life is very limited. As we see that one day we have to say goodbye, we don't waste our time on unnecessary things like hating others or unnecessarily messing up with life. We just reprioritize our goals and values that we really want to do in life. The other one is improve helping others. So they have found the people who walk by a cemetery or live close to cemeteries are more helpful, help others than those who don't walk near a cemetery or don't reflect on death. That's the theme. Improve positive thinking and promote better health. So those are interesting themes. If we look at improve physical health, help us to prioritize our goals and values, help others, think positively, and all these things comes as a part of our reflection on death. So before we go to the next slide, I want to a little bit, spend on this word death. What what is actually death? What is this dying, and death? Uh, According to the teachings of the Buddha, death is just a natural part of this existence. Uh, the whole universe, as I show you at the beginning, if we to look at the earth itself coming out of, going above and seeing the earth itself, it's spinning and rotating, more than 1,000 miles for an hour. But we feel that it doesn't change, it doesn't rotate, we just feels like, we are still, then nothing changes. So death uh, is this, part of change itself. um, there's a physical death, which is, at the end of the physical body has the capacity to survive. And when it comes to that, uh, it naturally passes away. And due to other reasons, it also passes away. And, and that is a very natural part of our life. By thinking of death, help us to come into awakening state that I don't have a lot of time. Uh, for example, let's say after another 100 years, you and me, whoever participate in this class, may not exist. There will be a different generation. So what will happen to us? So, when we think about that, it can be sometimes, very depressive subject. Uh, but reflection on death in Buddhism says is a very positive subject. Help us to use the life for important things, and enjoy it righteously, and cultivate an spiritual part of that, human life. So Buddha invited to reflect on, in lay life and ordained life. I am going to get old. I am going to get sick. I am going to die. I am going to be separated from all that is dear to me. I am the owner of my actions, and heir to my actions, born of my actions, so forth. So uh, when our life going well, when we are young and capable of doing living a life the way we want, we feel life is moving forward smoothly, and the subject of death never appears to us. But no matter where we are in our life, we can, if we think of the nature of it, every day we spend, you know we kind of use the time that left for us to live. um, for example, I am taking this 1.5 hour from your life, or you are spending that 1.5 hour with me. So this 1.5 hour is a time that we have to live. So next day we wake up, we spend the day. As we spend the day, it's the time that we use from our bank, from our savings. So the more we use the saving, we're going to run out of money. We're going to run out of life. So therefore, uh, when we look at life like that, it helps us to uh, increase our spiritual part of our life and be more generous, help others, be kind to others, and let go of unwanted struggles in life. Sometimes some people struggle with one particular thing in their whole life, and sometimes hating each other. uh, but by reflecting on that and seeing life you know in a different dimension, help us to bring more meaning to our life. There are four types of death explained in the teaching of the Buddha. uh, Taking an oil lamp as a simile, uh, the exhaustion of the lifespan equals to the wick burns up. So the wick of the oil lamp, when it burns little by little, the oil lamp going to fade away. So the flame will no longer there. So similarly, uh, our life ends by living a full life. The spending, for example, let's say if the human lifespan is 80 years, living that 80 years, sometimes people die, because that means the body, the capacity of the physical body is 80 years. And when it comes to that, it naturally passes away. The second type of death in Buddhism is the exhaustion of the karmic energy equals to the consummation of the oil. So when the oil burns out, uh, that is also a way for the exhaustion of the um, uh, flame. So similarly, Buddha says, to be born as a human, there's a certain level of karmic energy that we all have. Sometimes some people die when there is no that karmic energy for them to live as a human or as an animal, as a deity. So that is the second type of death. The third type of death is simultaneously uh, exhaust the lifespan and the karmic energy. It just seems like the wick of the oil lamp and the oil equally at the same times comes to its end. So sometimes we see people uh, uh, die like that. We don't know whether they come to the end of their karmic energy, but this is the explanation given in the suttas. And then the fourth one is due to external circumstances, like wind blowing out the flame. So sometimes the oil is there, the wick is there. Sometimes the wind blows the flame. Likewise, sometimes we see people who has whole life to live, but from an accident or some other circumstances, they end their lives. So similarly, the Buddha says death happens in these ways in our life. So reflection of death or reflection on death, you know, the Buddha says, uh, brings us lots of good things to our life, and it is not a negative subject, and it helps us to, as I explained earlier, bring more meaning to our lives. uh, uh, be kind to oneself and others. And sometimes it can bring frustration, but that is why we, as we do the reflection on death, we practice Dhamma. So Dhamma, the other practices like generosity, practice of meditation, practice of sila, having good friends in life, they become a protective part of our life. They help us to be safe, and that create that supportive network in our life through other practices. So as we do other practices, we reflect on death as well. But without those practices, somebody reflect on death, that might bring lots of frustration, anxiety, fear. So therefore we have to be in a way mindful when we do the reflection on death, to have other practices as well, and little by little cultivate more wisdom along with other Dhamma practices. Okay. Care for dying and transferring merits. This is another theme in this presentation. Care for dying is actually a broad theme. I narrow it down to Buddhist. If you are a Buddhist, care for dying can be very different from person to person. Sometimes in Buddhist culture, some people play chanting at the when somebody is dying. But personally, I would say I don't want anything. I don't want to listen to anything. I just like complete silence. That would be what I like, or what I would appreciate at the moment if death comes to me. Maybe somebody might like listening to some chantings, reflecting on the Dhamma as listening to chanting. So the expectation can be different from person to person based on their Dhamma practices. I think best thing as a Buddhist can be done is writing down, if in case, for example, I take it as me, for an example, if something happens to me, I come to the end of my life, I maybe keep a record somewhere or write it down. If you care for me at that moment, maybe I may not be able to talk, I may not be able to ask somebody to do something. Maybe I can prepare what I like at that moment. Maybe keep me in silence, so that at that moment, when I am physically unable to instruct, whoever care for me at that moment can follow those instructions. That is something I think as care for dying. And uh, giving compassionate presence, uh, reminding good things that the person did in life, reminding the beautiful things that person did practice in life, helps to associate, keep the mind in a positive state. So uh, uh, Buddha says, when our mind is positive, with good energy, with good merits, good karma, that karmic energy associate a similar karmic state, a similar energy level. So when the mind is positive, the next moment will be positive. Similarly, at the moment of death, if the mind is positive, it helps to reborn in a good place under somebody attain nirvana. So therefore, at that moment of time, keeping the mind positive helps to born in a good place. So transferring merits, when somebody dies, uh, the Buddhist practice is transferring merits. It is, uh, you know, it's a practice we do um, through our mind. So, for example, let's say uh, we give, uh, you know, we offer something to temple, or we do an act of kindness or practice dana or generosity. By doing that particular action, we cultivate good thoughts in our mind. And with those good thoughts, we make a wish. May those who departed from our life see my, good actions I have done, and may by seeing those good actions, may they be happy and peaceful. So I cannot send my good thoughts according to the Buddhist practices, but we create a space for those who are dead, if they are in a state where they can see what we do. So they will see our good actions, and it helps them to experience happiness in their existence. But let's say someone die and born as a human, they may not be able to relate to that. You know, we don't know, maybe our past relatives in our past lives might, still thinking of us, crying for us, but we have no idea. So like that, there are places like human realm where, we can do transferring merits, but there are some other places, we can help those who are dead. So as time passes by, so I'm going to conclude the presentation. So if you want to study more about, lay Buddhist life, I recommend reading these suttas, Digajanu or Vyagdapajja Sutta, Singhalavada Sutta, Parabhava Sutta, and Mangala Sutta, to understand, some training related to lay life. So I want to thank all of you, and thank you for asking questions as well. And I invite Bante Sirinanda to, address.
Thank you, Bante. And there are some questions as well, but I think unfortunately we have to stop the class on time. There is another session in the temple, so we do the puja every day at 8:30 in Halifax time. So yeah, I know there are a couple of questions, and normally in the beginning when this class started, there were a lot of questions. We got uh, maybe 50-60 questions per session, but at the end, actually today we don't get much questions as in the beginning. That means probably most of the questions were solved when class go by. So anyways, and I thank you, Bante, for sharing this beautiful talk, teaching with us. And it's really indeed insightful and informative session. I myself enjoyed the session, and I hope everyone else in the today enjoyed, as well as when once I publish the recording, I'm sure the many others will be rejoice and enjoy the session as well. And I really appreciate, Bante, your time and sharing your wisdom with us. And since this is our last session, uh, I would like to mention that uh, next week I will send you a short email with some with a quiz. So it's a questionnaire that you can test your memory. How did you go through these sessions, and how much you took from the class, and you can do some refresh on the class. And also, I invite you to send your honest comments about the course, so then we can reshape the class. We are planning to maybe reoffer it maybe next year, but when we are reoffering that, we can reshape the class, like topics, time, uh, that the way that we are delivering it, and anything. I'm expecting your honest comments on it. Please send it via email, or you can comment it on our Facebook page or Facebook group. So yeah, then we can reshape it and offer next time with a better shape. I think that's all for today, and I really appreciate for your help and your participation and everything, and thankful for everyone for participating in this course. And thank you for Bante, Vijita, and as well as all our resource persons, all Bantes that who gave the talks and conduct the sessions. And I appreciate all of your help to continue this class. And thank you so much. Thirunsarnai.